Hi again, everyone. Gary Digital Williams here on Boxing Along the Beltway, our news and notes for this week. And going to be a short edition this week. We only have a couple of items, and I want to do a commentary real quickly. But the Beltway Boxing News and Notes podcast on the Boxing Along the Beltway Google app for Android is brought to you by Real-Time Pain Relief. From boxers to ballerinas, from shoulder pain to muscle strain, everything in between. Boxing Along the Beltway recommends Real-Time Pain Relief, the natural plant-based, safe, fast, and effective ointment. And you can go to www.freepainoffer.com with your first purchase of $10 or more and get a free $10 tube of real-time pain relief. Rub it on, the pain is gone in real time. Well, as we record this tonight, we are just moments after a pretty big win for a Beltway boxer against another Beltway boxer. Matter of fact, a DC boxer against another DC boxer. And the two guys were, of course, former stablemates in the Headbangers Gym in Washington, D.C. Just moments ago on FS1 tonight, David Day Grayton scored a really nice bounce-back victory over his former stablemate, Kareem Remo Martin, tonight at the co-feature of the Sands Bethlehem Event Center in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Now, as we said, the two sparred together at the Headbangers Gym in Washington, D.C. until about 3 years ago when Grayton left the gym. He's now being trained by the great George Peterson, who is from D.C. as well. And I think this bout was a case of Grayton being able to take Martin into what we kind of call deep water. And Martin didn't survive it. Just that simple. I think that's what it comes down to. Martin got off to a great start in the bout. He was counterpunching well. He was landing shots. But I think one of the biggest things against Martin over his young career is that Martin has very little power. And I think that manifested itself in this bout tonight. He couldn't keep David Grayton off of him. He really couldn't. And once Grayton was able to right his ship a little bit, he did suffer a cut because of a headbutt in the fourth round over the right eye, but it didn't seem to affect him the rest of the way. But once Grayton righted his ship in the fourth round, he just muscled the smaller Martin down and wore him down till he got to the eighth round, and with a beautiful right-left combination, Grayton knocked out, dropped Martin, and then was able to stop him moments later. But I just think, again, it was one of those bouts that I thought was dangerous from the get-go, only because there was really nothing on the line here as far as titles or things of that nature. I think for Grayton, and I said this, I think last week or the week before last, for Grayton, it was a much more important bout because it was an important bout for David Grayton because of the loss he had to Brian Perella earlier in the year, back on June 4th in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. So I think it was definitely a more important bout for Grayton because he needed a bout to really kind of right his ship, which he ended up doing. For Martin, however, it was about to see where he is in his career, and I think what he's seeing now is that he has some work to do. There's no question about that. He has some work to do. He's got to get his power going. That was his first scheduled 8-rounder, and I don't think he handled that well. Not to make any excuses, but I think I thought I saw some situations where Martin may have hurt his knee or hurt his leg at some point. I was talking it over with my colleague Juan Marshall, and he thought he saw Martin and Benji Esteves kind of tangle a little bit, and I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but the problem was still there as far as Martin's inability to keep Grayton off of him, his inability to really do any damage. He scored punches. He had punches that scored points with the judges, but he just didn't do enough to keep Grayton off of him. And once Grayton, as I said, once Grayton got himself together, he was able to walk Martin down as he thought he would, and he's able to get the victory. So Grayton, like I said, a big win for him coming off that loss to Brian Perella, where he just was not in that fight at all. I mean, he really didn't get anything going in that fight against Brian Perella. Grayton's now 15-1, 11 KOs, and Martin suffers his first pro loss. He's now 8-1-1 with 3 KOs. All right. So that's the big news of the week right now. I mean, there's some other things going on. I'm going to talk about a couple of things a little bit later on. But that's the big news of the week. And that took place, of course, tonight on FS1. Now, Wednesday night, August 24th, there'll be a welcome home celebration in Capitol Heights, Maryland for their native son, Gary Antuanne Russell, as he returned now from Rio de Janeiro. And there's going to be a celebration for him, a free celebration at the Dave & Buster's in Capitol Heights, Maryland. That's located on 1851 Ritchie Station Court in Capitol Heights. That's the brand new shopping center over there. And they're going to give an opportunity to win a Team Russell autographed boxing glove. I assume it's autographed by all the brothers to get that. It'll begin at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And hope you can go out there. Unfortunately, I cannot make it. This is the birthday time for my family, and all three of my children have birthdays within a span of 8 days. So let me take this opportunity right now. So this will be our only podcast before then, more than likely, to wish all three of my young now teenagers happy birthday. My daughter Sienna, her birthday will be on August 24th. That day, she'll be 18 years old. All three of them have milestone birthdays, by the way. 18 years old. My son Christopher's birthday will be on September the 1st, and he'll be 16 years old. And my daughter Courtney will be 13 years old, although she wants to be 16 real badly for some reason. I don't know. But she'll be 13 years old on August the 30th. So I want to wish all my great children happy birthday. Just a fantastic family that I do have. I'm very blessed to have them. So I thank them for that. And happy birthday to all three of my three C's, Sienna, Christopher, and Courtney. Couple commentary notes before we get out of here. First of all, there's a developing story in this area. And it's a very weird story. It's gotten weirder over the last couple of days. Last week, and actually early this week, I know it wasn't early this week. Today's Monday. Today's Tuesday. So it was actually late last week. There are reports that the World Boxing Association, WBA, had allowed the WBA super featherweight champion Jason Sosa, the Cinderella Man out of New Jersey, to have a voluntary title defense. And they were putting together a voluntary title defense between Sosa, who will defend the title against Baltimore's own Gervonta Tank Davis. The date has already been set. Apparently, it's October 22nd. Now, that part is okay. But it's the next part of the story that is really weird. And the next part of the story is that apparently there is some friction. This comes out of BoxingScene.com, and I want to thank my buddy Seamus McNally, who actually does write for StiffJab.com. He pointed this out to me, that there's a rift of some sort. There may be a rift between Gervonta Davis and Floyd Mayweather. Now, you remember back in early part of this year and into last year, the two of them were very tight, and Gervonta Davis was calling. Floyd Mayweather was calling Gervonta Davis the next world champion, and really was really behind him. But apparently, Mayweather wants Davis to move to Las Vegas and train in Vegas. Gervonta Davis, to his credit, doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to move to Vegas. He wants to stay in Baltimore. That's where he's from. That's where people respect him and love him and care about him. He doesn't want to leave. So because of that, there may be a possibility where Davis may not be with Mayweather anymore. Now, also Davis is with Al Heyman, so that may not be a bad deal. But this supposed rift between Mayweather and Davis may force Davis to step out of this title opportunity, which is ridiculous, in all honesty. Because Mayweather is talking about putting Davis on the shelf until he decides to come out to Vegas. Well, you can't play with a man's career like that. And I don't care if you are Floyd Mayweather. You may be one of the greatest of all time in the ring, but you're still a babe as far as promoting and managing fighters in this business. You are definitely no Bob Arum or Don King or not even Oscar De La Hoya. Okay? No Lou DiBella or anything like that. So you got to wonder where Mayweather's coming from on this one. Let this young man get that opportunity. And the fact that he won't move 3,000 miles away shouldn't enter into this. And so I have a major problem with that one. So hopefully they will get that sorted out, and Gervonta will get that opportunity on October 22nd for the WBA Super Featherweight Championship. Be a tough bout. Jason Sosa's no joke. But I think Davis could be ready for that situation. So we'll keep you posted on that one as it goes on. Finally, my final commentary. And this takes place back on the show Friday night at the Crystal City Hilton in Arlington, Virginia. Once again, I do want to apologize for not being able to do a live show that night because, again, the internet was not working very well. Hope you enjoyed Juan Marshall and I post-fight wrap-up show. But one thing about the night, not the card didn't bother me at all, but the night itself kind of bugged me. And a while back, I made a statement that I had difficulties with local boxers not attending shows and not supporting today's talent. And some do. But usually it's only when their boxers are in action. Well, a situation took place last Friday night that gave me an understanding as to why the older boxers don't come. And I think it comes to a point where, well, let me explain the scenario. Friday night, two local Beltway boxing legends were in the building. They could not get tickets into the event. Okay. They weren't two of our major champions. They weren't Keith Holmes, William Joppy, and all that. But let me say who they were. One of them was a guy who I've talked about recently within the last couple of weeks because of my connection to my connection to Lonnie Cornegay. I've called him the new Marion Jackhammer Wilson. Now, for those, again, who don't know who Marion Jackhammer Wilson was, he was probably the heavyweight with the toughest chin in the last 30-some years. His record was horrible, but he faced some top-flight opponents over the years and was never knocked out. So he was in attendance. And just as a side note, and this is because this is a personal connection between myself and Marion Wilson, I want to wish his family deepest condolences. Marion lost his nephew, a young man by the name of Versace Wilson, who I happen to know because I taught him a couple of years at Booker T. Washington Public Charter School in D.C. Nice young man, very nice young man. Passed away a few months ago of sickle cell, and just a wonderful young man. He was the nephew of Marion Wilson. The other man that was there was a guy who really one of the characters of our area, a man by the name of Robert Boo Boo Sawyer. Now, a lot of people don't remember Boo Boo Sawyer was, again, one of those welterweights that came out right after Sugar Ray Leonard did. So he was in that same camp with Maurice Blocker and Simon Brown in that time frame. He didn't get to the level that either Brown or Blocker did. They didn't get to the world championship level, but still was a very exciting boxer, TV-friendly boxer. When ESPN used to do television championships, Robert Sawyer was the ESPN welterweight champion at one time. And he kind of has a footnote in history a little bit. A few years ago, there was a documentary called Assault in the Ring that was but that talked about the tragic situation between Bobby Collins and Louis Resto. For those who don't know that story, that's the story where Collins was beaten literally to a pulp by Louis Resto, they discovered that he had padding taken out of his gloves. And Collins subsequently killed himself by driving his car into a ditch. And he was only 20, 21, 22 years old at the time. Well, the footnote is that if you look at the DVD of that particular video, documentary, there is a segment in which Robert Sawyer talks to Louis Resto because Sawyer really could have been Collins, because Sawyer lost the ESPN welterweight title to Louis Resto. And Sawyer said he never been hit that hard in his life. The claim was, and Resto kind of owned up to it, that there was some chicanery with the gloves in Resto's fight against Robert Sawyer. And Sawyer was never the same boxer after that. He was doing very well until that fight against Resto, and his career just plummeted after that. So that's by explanation of who these guys are. But anyway, these guys were a big part of Beltway boxing in the late 80s, early 90s, late 80s and the 90s, really. And it's a long way getting to my point. My point, though, is our Beltway boxers, and not just the champions, but the Beltway boxers that have been a part of this history and made it what it is and contributed to what it is, should not have to pay to get into a boxing match. They should get carte blanche, in my personal opinion. And this is not a jab at Keystone Boxing or King's Promotions. This happens all throughout the Beltway boxing area. You know, unless they're working with boxers, and a lot of guys, I know a lot of guys in Baltimore, like Ed Griffin, Vincent Petway, Kenny Blackston, they work at boxers, so they get in for free. But if they want to just attend a boxing card in this area as a fan, chances are they got to pay. And I think that's just ridiculous. These guys have meant too much to this area. And we can just get them an ID card that says, well, I was a boxer. If you boxed for 5 years and maybe had 20, 25 fights on your career, there's no reason why you should not get in to a boxing card for free. Yeah, or, for the females, maybe a little different as far as the amount of bouts, but they should get in for free. Lisa Foster Cohen should never have to pay for a card to get into a card. Israel Gerger-Wynn should never have to pay to get into a card. Israel is a DC Boxing Hall of Famer. Lisa Foster Cohen should be a DC Boxing Hall of Famer. Why she isn't in there, I do not know. But these ladies should not have to pay to get into a card. The male boxers and the guys like Teddy Reed and there are a lot of boxers who didn't get to that championship level, but still are an integral part of the history of Beltway boxing in the last 30, 35, 40 years. And they should not have to pay. We've got to treat them better. Discombombing Jones does an outstanding job in recognizing the great achievements of a lot of the boxers in the area. When the few times I get the ring announced, I see a lot of these guys, I make a big deal of it. I make a presentation. I talk about their career. I give like a sentence or two about their careers, especially the older guys. Every time I interview, for example, anytime I introduce Daryl Tyson, I go through his whole career practically. I go through how, he fought just about everybody in the lightweight, in the junior welterweight division. He fought the biggest and the best. Who can forget his great bout against Freddie Pendleton, which was one of the greatest bouts that ever took place in this area. Reggie Showtime Green, I go through his career. If I see him, if I know they're there, I'm going to try to give them as big an introduction as I possibly can, because they deserve it. And this is why, when you see this, folks like the folks over at Fight Night, for example, understand this, and that's why they don't honor our local boxers. Like I said, it's been criminal the last few years that Fight Night, when they have their legends, don't have Mark Too Sharp Johnson as part of that legend. But we got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot by not honoring our own. We had a great night a few years ago with the big night down at the Lincoln Theater. Not the Lincoln Theater, excuse me, the Warner Theater, and the card that took place, and the big night they had at Ben Chili Bowl that night. That was a couple years ago, and that was fine. That was wonderful. But that needs to be done on a regular basis. So when a lot of boxers who the average boxing fan, even in this area, may not remember, come to a show, they need to be honored. I've gone to the shows. I see people like Curtis Peoples. I see in Baltimore, I may see Courtney Pound for Pound Butler. All these guys who I know personally meant a lot to my career. Being able to follow them, they meant a lot to my career. We had some of the biggest bouts in Beltway boxing history as far as local club shows concerned. Among a lot of those guys, Curtis Peoples versus Ed Griffin, one of my all-time favorite bouts. Courtney Butler fighting a number of cards in the area that were pretty big in stature. When he fought Lindsey Morgan. These are the things that we need to continue to put together and put out there to let people know that it wasn't just all about the champions. The champions were great, and they were the ones that got to that elite level. But we had so many guys in this area who couldn't get to that elite level because of the competition in front of them. But without them, there would be no Beltway boxing scene, truth be told. And I just think, my personal belief is that no boxer who has boxed 5 years or had 25 fights in a career should ever have to pay to get into a boxing card. Not in this area. It shouldn't happen. And that's my take on that. And that'll do it here for another edition of Beltway Boxing News and Notes. Remember, the Boxing Law and Beltway News and Notes podcast on the Boxing Law and Beltway Google app for Android is brought to you by Real-Time Pain Relief. From boxers to ballerinas, for shoulder pain to muscle strain and everything in between, Boxing Law and the Beltway recommends Real-Time Pain Relief, the natural plant-based, safe, fast, and effective ointment. And don't forget, you can go to www.freepainoffer.com, and with your first purchase of $10 or more of Real-Time Pain Relief, you get a free $10 tube of this great ointment. And indeed, it works. No question about that. You rub it on, the pain is gone in real time. I'm Gary Digital Williams. Thanks for joining me, everybody, on this special edition of Beltway Boxing News and Notes. And once again, our top story, David Day Grayton out of Washington, D.C. defeated his former stablemate, Kareem Remo Martin, by 8-round technical knockout tonight in a co-feature bout that was shown on FS1, Fox Sports 1, from the Sands Bethlehem Event Center in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. David Day Grayton's record rises to 15-1, 11 KOs. Martin suffers his first pro loss. He is now 8-1-1 with 3 KOs. And don't forget the Gary Antuanne Russell celebration Wednesday night, August 24th, at the Dave & Buster's in Capitol Heights, Maryland. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Always remember to keep supporting the best boxing in the world, the boxing along the Beltway. Take care.